Just give me a second here.
You can all gather in the tent. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to begin the funeral service. We ask for those that are present here, if you could turn your cell phone or pager to the silent mode. Officiating today is Rabbi Leonard Rentenke.
אשרי האיש אשר לא הלך בעצת רשעים ובדרך חטאים לא עמד ובמושב לצים לא ישב כי בתורת אדוני חפצו ותורתו יגע יומם ולילה והיה כעץ שתול על פלגי מים אשר פריו ייתן בעתו ועלהו לא ייבול וכל אשר יעשה יצליח לא כן הרשעים כי אם כמוץ אשר תדפן רוח על כן לא יקומו רשעים במשפט וחטאים בעדת צדיקים כי יודע אדוני דרך צדיקים ודרך רשעים תאבד. מזמור לדוד, אדוני רואי לא אחסר בנות דשא ירביצני על מי מנוחות ינהלני, נפשי ישובב ינחני במעגלי צדק למען שמו. גם כי אלך בגיא צל מוות לא ירא כי אתה עמדי, שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני, תערוך לפני שולחן נגד צורריי, דשנת ושמן ראשי כוסי רוויה, אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Growing up in Chicago and attending the academy in the 70s, Bob Goldstein was a basketball legend. Short shorts, long sideburns, and an amazing accuracy. He was the star of the academy basketball team. But in those days, he was just old enough, older than I was, that I didn't know him well. Still, I did know his family. The Lavins and the Goldsteins, their place in our community, their role in so many organizations, and the aura they created of tradition that was genuine and real. There was, and there still is, the Lavin Nusach and the Lavin holiday gatherings. And there was the closeness of all of the Lavin children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. It was only later in life that I really got to know Bob. And to my great surprise, I discovered that this fearsome and feared basketball player was one of the sweetest and kindest people I ever met. He was soft-spoken and deferential. He was caring and engaging and giving. For years, he was the one who Mosheva would call for donations of medical supplies, and whatever he could give, he gave. And he was the one who cared for their shul, Elm Street, first alongside his father, and then on his own, working so hard to keep things not only going, but growing. In fact, right before he left for Yontif, he even made sure to roll the Sifrei Torah and to get them ready for laning on Yontif. And he was, in the finest of Lavin and Goldstein traditions, a Baal Koreh and a Baal Tefillah, who took those roles seriously and whose laning was deliberate, careful, and clear. Not that everything was always easy. When he was younger, there were challenges. But the Bob Goldstein I knew was a person who lived the lessons of Ben Zoma, who said, Ezehu mechubad hamechabed et habriot. Who is honored? He who honors others. Explained the Maharal MiPrague in his commentary, the Derech HaChaim. A person who is mechubad is not merely honored by others. Instead, what Ben Zoma was describing is what we would call an honorable person, a person who transforms himself into something more than he was before. And that was Bob. And it was the Bob I got to know, the man who was a loving and giving husband for these past 14 years to Sherry, who filled her life with such goodness and joy. They held each other's hands, left notes for one another, and lit up each other's lives. And it was the Bob who was the beloved brother of Susan and Carol and Jamie and the doting uncle to so many. Robert Goldstein was an honorable person, a person who made you feel better, who didn't care if you were the most important person in the world or just a person he worked with or knew. He treated everyone the same. And he was a person who we assumed would always be around, which tragically was not to be, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu had other plans for him. And while we'll never understand why this Yontif had to be his last, knowing the limitations we have on saying eulogies on Chol HaMoed, I have a feeling that this abbreviated form of tribute would be what he would have wanted. And so on behalf of all of your fans from so long ago, and your friends of today, your family and your colleagues, Rafal Yosef ben Anshel Baruch, I ask your mechila, your forgiveness for anything we did that we should not have done, and anything we should have done but didn't. Yours was truly a wondrous life, and you, Bob, were a good neshama, a wondrous soul, who taught us all the meaning of the word honor, and whose life, while cut short, was filled with goodness and care. May we learn the lessons of his life, live them, and share them, so that he'll continue to be part of our lives and the lives of all who knew and cared for him. Bila hamavet lanetzach, umacha Hashem Elokim dimami al kol panim. And now I'll call upon Susan.
As I stand here before all of you, I find it so hard to believe that my brother Bob, Robert, or Uncle Bob, is no longer standing here physically with us. He was taken from us much too soon, but he is going to a better place where he will be able to join so many who have gone before him. I would like to share some thoughts of my brother that some of you may or may not know. In high school, my brother went to Ida Crown. As much as studies were not his top interest, sports, however, were his number one. Basketball was his passion. He played for the Academy Aces, both junior and senior varsity, and was a leading scorer for the state. Robert's greatest fan, mentor, and coach was our father, Coach Goldstein. He gave Bob pointers, was his loudest fan, and his most ardent supporter. When my son Mikey was in high school at Fassman Yeshiva High School, there was a parent-student basketball game. Bob played on the parent team against the varsity. The parents were thrilled. Although many of the parents were not in the best physical shape, nor were they even basketball players, Bob hustled them all on the court. He made all the shots, scored over 30 points, and the parents beat the varsity handily. Uncle Bob loved sports. He was a huge Cub fan and an avid basketball fan. When we were growing up, he gave me a liberal education on players, statistics, and teams. He got a kick out of the fact that many of his nieces and nephews played league basketball. He kept up with their progress, but most of all, he loved going to their games and watching them play. He would say, "Show me what you got." He stayed in the background, but you knew he was there. Robert was a good guy. He had an amazing and charming giggle. His neshama was good to the core. He would give his time, his heart, his soul, or himself to whomever needed it. In the last couple of years, Uncle Bob became the gabbai of Lakeshore Drive Synagogue. He held the minyan together during COVID. He took the responsibility of laning. He also took precaution in order to maintain everyone's safety. Most of all, he followed in the footsteps of my father, gabbai extraordinaire. In addition, Robert was a Baal Koreh, par excellence. The members of Lakeshore Drive Synagogue came far and wide to hear his Aseres Hadibros and his Mafter Yonah. His voice was melodious, his words were crystal clear, and you felt... You felt you were with him at the foot of Har Sinai. Recently, somebody told me that if you heard Bob Lane, you were never in doubt of being Yotze. When Erica's kids learned how to lane in school, the first thing they did when they got home was call Uncle Bob. They would lane for him. He would be so proud and so happy they were continuing with the family tradition. The highlight of Robert's life was when he married Sherry. She was the love of his life, and he the love of her life. Family was so important to them. They were married for 14 years and made every moment count. They were committed to attending family smachot and always being there for moral support. Robert and Sherry took wonderful care of our parents, Betty and Ernie Goldstein. Robert, Carol and I know you were always the favorite. We, along with Mother and Daddy, were so proud of how much you achieved and accomplished. Robert and Sherry were planning a trip to Israel in the near future. Neither one had ever been, and were looking forward to such a wonderful experience. Unfortunately, it was not to be. However, their love of people will always shine brightly. Sherry has given me this note that Uncle Bob wrote to her and on their 14th wedding anniversary was just this past March. The last 14 years have been so wonderful. Let's do another 14 years together. The best years of my life have been with you. I love you so much. It's been a real slice. Let's try and keep it up for as long as God gives us the strength. Your loving husband, happy anniversary. Bob worked at TwinMed for over 15 years. He was the manager of a warehouse for medical supplies. He was dearly beloved by everyone who worked with him, from the warehouse workers to the truckers, to the salesmen to the secretaries, to everyone down the line. He made sure every order was filled and every facility received all it needed. He was generous to every need and charitable to those who were less fortunate. Often his work took priority over his personal life, always tending to the needs of others. The one thing that sticks in my mind as one of the most treasured and proud moments was when my grandson Abi was born. The bris was on Purim in Atlanta. Uncle Bob was there, even though the travel from Chicago had been a challenge. Karen and Naftali gave the zechutz of naming the baby to Robert. He was named Anshel Baruch, after our father. In addition, we had the special zechutz of Uncle Bob reading the Megillah for us. What was so heartwarming was how proud Robert was to participate, to be part of the simcha, and to be such a strong link in our family legacy. I suppose the last subject to speak about is the one that is most difficult. For years, our family has spent Pesach together in various places and locations. We have been a unit and have carried on our family traditions, from songs to guests to traditions. They are memories that each one of us cherishes. After Daddy died, Robert took over the reins, and we continued in the footsteps that were set out before us. In some way, we will continue to maintain our traditions and the wonderful legacy that has been set before us. As I said before, Robert was a family man. He loved his two sisters, Carol and me. We were a strong unit, Carol and Jamie, Sherry, Uncle Bob, and me. Robert worried about us and how he could make our lives easier. Even though he was in the background, we knew we could count on each other. Robert was a good guy, and he never wanted any accolades. It seems apropos that because it is Pesach, there can be no eulogy or accolades, only stories to share. On behalf of Sherry, Carol and Jamie, Karen and Naftali, Mikey and Tova, Erica and Josh, Adam and Ronit, Lauren and Eitan, and all their children, we want to say we love you, and we miss you always. The Pesach Seder was so difficult and empty without you. Your amazing heart will always be part of our hearts, and we will forever be intertwined.
Because today is Chol Hamoed, we don't say the Kel Moed, but if you would rise for one more psalm, the Michtam Lev David, chapter 16 of Psalms. Michtam le David, Shomreni el ki chasiti vach, Amart la Adonai, Adonai ata, Tovati balalecha, Likdoshim asher ba'aretz hem avadirei kol chefzivam, Yirbu atzavotam acher maharu, Balasich niskei midam ubalasai shmotam al svatai. Adonai manat chelki v'chosi ata tomich gorali. Chavalim nafalu li banimim, af nachalat shofra alai. Avarechet Adonai asher ya'atzani, af leilot yisruni chilyotai. Shiviti Adonai lenegdi tamid, ki mimini bal emot. Lachen samach libi v'yagel kvodi. אף בשרי ישכון לבטח, כי לא תעזוב נפשי לשאול, לא תיתן חסידך לראות שחד. תודיעני אורח חיים, סוב השמחות את פניך, נעימות בימינך נצח.
blue.
invite everyone to help with the mitzvah.
showed up in Normandy. I should have this crazy lady. Right away. Tired? You know? Then he has She's one of
Very nice story about your brother.
He loved him all.
We loved him. One of a kind. I was telling people there's not going to be one like him.
But I wanted to mention it because also it's a very important part of his life. He was so committed.
He was the best one. Yeah, he absolutely was. Absolutely was.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here. Yes,
We wouldn't have missed it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Nice to meet
You too. Thank you.
Be well.
Thank you. Figure out who you are. The beard and the mask and the hat. No, I get it. I get it. Yeah, I just kind of know. In between, yeah. He didn't really say. Just we don't care that you're I think they do it. My father did not want to be involved. My mother was so mad at him because she said, what am I going to do? All my relatives are involved. I said, you'll visit. He didn't want to, he did not want to be involved. My mother got so mad. My sisters are involved. I want to be with my sisters. One day when you're going to have 5 minutes, the sun comes to your office. It's a good story. It's a good story.
few minutes for some additional earth to be brought so you can finish the area. It sounds good.
From this way, I have to bring in a truck with more earth. I don't want anybody getting hurt. We're not sure.
God's coming.
There were.
I don't know. That's the supervisor over there.
Just don't want the earth to get stuck in the ground.
It was good. I saw a lot of family. They happy at times. And the week before, I'm actually sure. You know? I know. I said, I want to go before we go to Florida. I just want to go because right after, I'm supposed to go here and there. Right. It's sort of like we finished everything off. But I remember you guys trying to get it going. Yeah.
Let's try to do that. They're bringing another one.
There is yet one more tractor coming with more. Now they're not taking any chances.
Track release. We don't want you to get hurt.
יושב בסתר יום צל שדי למען אמר לאדוני מחסיר מצודתי אלוהי אבטח בו כי הוא הציל לך מפח יקוש מדבר רבות ובראתו יסח לך ותחת כנפיו תחסד צינה וסורכי רעים אותו לא תירא מפחד לילה וחץ יעוף יומם מדבר ועוף ירמוך בכתב רשות צהריים ויפול מצידך 1000 לבבם ממניך אליך לא יגס רק בעיניך תביט ושאם תראה כי אתה אדוני מחסי עליון שמת מעיניך לא תונה אליך רעה ונגע לא יקרב בו עליך כי מלאכיו יצב עליך לשמורך בכל דרכיך על כפיים ישאונך פן תגוף באופן רגליך על אשרך לפתע תדרוך תרמוס כפיר ותנין כי בי חשק באפלתהו as geveel ki adash vi kreini vi nemono imo nochi b'tzara chatzeva chabdeo orach yamim asvil v'ariv b'shuati orach yamim asvil v'ariv b'shuati. We'll now recite the Kaddish.
Carol?
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעולמה דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, וחייכונו וימיכונו וחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן, יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם ולעולמי עולמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה לשמי דקודשה בריחו, לעילם מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעולמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו amen. Before we conclude the services here, just a reminder that the Shiva is not going to begin until after Yontif. In Chicago, the Shiva is going to be beginning on Monday from 11 o'clock in the morning until 9 o'clock in the evening in the community room at 7141 North Kedzie. Again, that'll be Monday through Thursday. There'll be a minyan from Mariv at 8:30 each of those evenings as well. The Shiva actually begins right after Yontif, but they'll be in both Florida and in New York on those days, the first day of Shiva. Sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, if we can have friends and extended family form an aisleway leading away from the grave so the immediate mourners could walk through and we could offer them the traditional words of condolences. If we can form an aisleway leading away from the grave so the family can walk through.
Hamakom Yenachem Etchem Tov Shem Le'Tzion Yerushalayim. May the Lord comfort you among the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. The service is now concluded.